My name is Teresa D. Valdez, 28. I work night security downtown while finishing my criminal justice degree through community college. I make about $42,000 a year. Not glamorous money, but steady. Enough to be responsible. Enough to keep things afloat. My boyfriend, Simon, worked part-time at a men's boutique and brought in maybe $18,000 on a good year. We had been together 6 years, living together for 3, and because I earned more, I covered almost everything that mattered. Rent, utilities, most groceries. The quiet background costs of adulthood that nobody notices until they stop getting paid. Simon was always the social one. Easy laugh, easy charm, the kind of man who could make strangers feel like old friends in under 5 minutes. He went out with friends on Friday nights, took weekend trips to visit his sister, claimed he needed space sometimes because being home too much made him restless. I was more of a homebody between work and classes, but I never held that against him. If anything, I tried hard to be supportive. I trusted him, completely. Looking back now, that trust feels less like love and more like a blindfold I tied myself. Yesterday, I was scrolling Instagram in the parking lot before my shift when I saw something that made my stomach drop so suddenly I thought I might actually be sick. Our mutual friend Nolan had posted photos from a birthday party the weekend before. I almost kept scrolling. Then I noticed someone in the background, Simon. His face half turned toward the camera, one hand around a woman's waist, kissing her like it was the most natural thing in the world. She wasn't someone I recognized. He was wearing the same black jacket he told me he packed for a guy's weekend out by the lake, the one I had helped him fold because he said he was rushing. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred, then zoomed in so far the image went grainy. It was still him, still her, still unmistakable. I texted Nolan right away. Hey, was Simon at Caleb's party last weekend? Thought he was out of town with friends. His reply came fast. Too fast. Wait, I thought you guys broke up months ago. He's been bringing Delia around since February. Did you two get back together? I just sat there. Broke up months ago. Delia. Did we get back together? I read the message over and over like the meaning might rearrange itself into something survivable. Simon and I had not broken up. We had eaten takeout together on Tuesday. He kissed my forehead before leaving Friday morning. We had been talking about taking a trip next month once my class schedule eased up. Meanwhile, apparently, the outside world had been watching him debut another woman on his arm, like I had already been cleared out of the picture. I called Nolan immediately. My voice sounded strange even to me. Too calm, like someone else borrowing it. What do you mean we broke up? There was a pause, then a careful exhale. Teresa, Simon's been telling everyone you ended things in February. He said it was mutual and you were just figuring out the living situation. He's been acting single for months. I thought you knew. We live together, I said. He was in our apartment Tuesday night. He slept next to me 2 nights ago. Silence. Then, softer, oh damn. After I hung up, I spent the next 3 hours doing the kind of searching people do when they already know the truth but still hope to find one detail that changes it. I combed through tagged photos, old stories, mutual accounts, and there it was, a whole second life. Every guy's night, every weekend visiting family, every vague explanation about needing air or space. He had been with Delia, at restaurants, concerts, rooftop bars, Sunday brunches. In every photo, he looked lighter than he had looked with me in months. Relaxed, proud, public. Like I had become the hidden part of his life, while she got the version of him that stood in the light. Then I found the part that actually made my blood run hot. He was on dating apps. Not just one, multiple. Using pictures from our relationship, a photo from our mountain trip last fall, except I had been cropped out so cleanly it took me a second to realize I had originally been standing beside him. Another from the beach, another from a street fair, another from my birthday dinner where he had cut away my arm but kept the candlelight and the smile. He had turned our memories into advertising material for the women he wanted next. I sat in my car long after dark, engine off, hands frozen around my phone, trying to understand how long I had been funding someone else's escape, how long I had been the stable background while he auditioned a new future. How many people had looked at me over the last few months and pitied me for not knowing. How many smiles I had trusted. How many lies had been told with my rent money, quietly keeping the lights on. Simon was supposed to be back the next evening from what he had described as a short trip with friends. I knew now it was almost definitely a romantic weekend with Delia. The humiliation of that settled over me slowly, like cold water climbing higher. But beneath it, something else started forming. Not screaming, not chaos, something harder, cleaner, If he wanted to live like we had broken up months ago, then maybe I needed to stop waiting for honesty and start moving like the truth had finally arrived. I did not confront Simon when he got back. That surprised even me. 6 years is a long time to pour into a person, and there was a part of me that wanted the dramatic version. The trembling voice, the screenshots thrown onto the table, the demand that he explain how he could lie that smoothly while still eating food I bought and sleeping in sheets I washed. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized confrontation would only give him what men like Simon always want in the beginning. Time, space, another chance to rearrange the facts until I started questioning my own memory. So instead, I used the weekend he was gone to get organized. The first person I called was his sister, Elena. Simon and I had always gotten along well with her. She had been over to our apartment enough times to know we lived together as a real couple, not some vague in-between situation. She knew how our life looked. If anyone could tell me how far his lies had spread, it was her. When she answered, she sounded half distracted, half warm. "Hey, Teresa, everything okay?" "No," I said. "I need you to be honest with me. Has Simon told you that we broke up?" There was a pause, not a confused one, a guilty one. Then she said carefully, "Why are you asking that?" Because that was answer enough already. Because I just found out he's been telling mutual friends we ended things in February, and I need to know who else he's lied to. She went quiet for a second too long. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. "Oh God. Teresa, I didn't realize you didn't know." I closed my eyes. "Know what exactly?" "He told me and my mom that you two had split up months ago. He said things got unhealthy, that you were becoming too controlling about who he saw and where he went. He said you made him feel trapped." I actually laughed, but there was nothing amused in it. It came out thin and sharp and hurt more than crying would have. "Controlling," I repeated. "Elena, I pay for his rides home when he goes out drinking, so he doesn't have to worry about getting home safely. I work nights and still adjust my sleep to pick him up sometimes if he says surge pricing is too high. I've never once stopped him from seeing friends." "I know," she said quickly. "I mean, I didn't fully buy it, but he made it sound complicated. He said you fought all the time. Said you kept threatening to throw him out if he didn't change." "That never happened. Not once. We haven't been fighting. We were planning a trip next month. He told me he loved me before leaving for this weekend." The silence on the other end went heavy. Then Elena said the words that turned this from cheating into something even uglier. "He also told Mom he was trying to find his own place, and that his living situation had been unstable. Mom sent him money a few times to help with rent." I sat down so fast the chair scraped across the kitchen floor. "What?" "He said things with his roommate were tense, and he needed help while he figured things out." Roommate. That was what I had become in the story he was selling. Not the woman paying the lease, not the partner carrying most of the life we shared, just some unstable roommate setup he was bravely navigating while presenting himself as newly single to the world. All while taking money from his family because supposedly his housing situation was shaky. I felt sick. Not because I was shocked anymore, but because everything was suddenly aligning with a precision that made the betrayal feel planned. He was not just cheating. He was building a parallel reality where I financed his stability, his family subsidized his performance, and his new girlfriend got the exciting, uncomplicated version of him. "Elena," I said quietly, "he's been lying to you. We are together, or at least we were until this moment. We live together, sleep in the same bed, share bills. There has been no breakup. He has been with me this entire time while telling everyone else a completely different story." She swore under her breath, then softer, "I'm so sorry, Teresa." After I hung up, I called my friend Wyatt from work. Wyatt had been through a vicious divorce a few years back and came out of it with this calm, almost clinical approach to chaos that I needed badly in that moment. "Wyatt," I said, "I need help, and I need you not to stop me by trying to be optimistic." That got his attention. "What do you need?" "Simon's been cheating on me, lying about our relationship, and using me as financial cover while he dates someone else. He's away until tomorrow night. I need to get my things out before he comes back, and I need somewhere to stay for a few days while I sort out housing." There was no dramatic gasp, no unnecessary sympathy, just immediate practicality. "I've got room. When do we start?" That is one of the reasons I will always trust Wyatt. Some people offer comfort when your life breaks, others help you carry boxes. The second kind saves you faster. The rest of Saturday became an extraction. I photographed everything in the apartment before touching it, room by room, drawer by drawer, just in case Simon later tried to claim I had stolen or damaged anything. Then I packed only what was mine: clothes, books, my kitchen equipment, the desk I bought for school, my plants, my framed photos, the sofa my aunt gave me after her move, the television I paid for, the coffee machine he never cleaned but used every morning. Piece by piece, I removed my presence from that apartment until the place stopped looking like our life and started looking like a stage after the lead actress has walked off and taken the script with her. The lease, thankfully, was month to month. I called the landlord, explained I was leaving, and made it crystal clear that I would not be responsible for rent, damage, or unpaid utilities beyond the legal notice period. Then I canceled everything in my name: electric, gas, internet, water, streaming accounts. Every invisible service that had made Simon's version of single feel comfortable while I quietly handled the adult parts. I also went to the bank and closed the joint checking account we used for shared expenses. There was less than $1,000 in it, all money I had deposited anyway, and I moved it into a new account at a different bank. Clean break, no lingering access, no room for him to drain one last thing while pretending he was confused. The hardest part was Bruno. Bruno was my dog. I adopted him before Simon and I ever moved in together. His chip, vet records, adoption paperwork, everything was in my name. But Simon loved him, or at least I had believed he did. Bruno slept by Simon's feet sometimes, followed him into the kitchen, waited at the door when he left. Taking Bruno felt like one more brutal proof that this was real, but leaving him was never actually an option. I wasn't going to let a man who had built his whole life on deceit keep the one creature in that apartment who had never lied to me. By Sunday evening, the place looked hollow. Simon's clothes still hung in the closet. His shoes still lined the wall by the door. His framed records and stupid glass cologne bottles were right where he left them. But everything that had been mine, everything that had made the apartment functional and warm and shared, was gone. I left a note on their kitchen counter. Short. No performance, no pleading. Simon, I know about Delia. I know you've been telling people we broke up months ago. I know about the dating apps. I know about the lies to your family. I'm done. Do not contact me. The utilities will shut off Monday because they were in my name. The landlord knows I'm leaving. Your half of this month is covered. After that, you're on your own. Teresa. I placed my key on top of the note, stood in the doorway for one last second, and let myself feel the finality of it. Not the grief. That would come and go later in smaller, meaner waves. What I felt then was something closer to release. The next morning, Elena called again. Simon just called me crying, she said. He says his roommate moved out suddenly, and now he can't pay the electric bill. He asked if I could send money. Should I? I almost admired the speed of the lie. No, I said. Do not send him anything. He is 26 years old. He has been lying to you for months. It is time for him to learn what being single actually costs. But what if he can't afford rent? Then he needs a cheaper place, or he moves home. That is not my problem anymore. By then, Simon had already started blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, blocked numbers, unknown numbers, all of it. I blocked everything I didn't recognize. I wasn't curious. I wasn't tempted. Whatever version of regret he was suddenly ready to perform did not interest me. Because the truth was simple. He had wanted the freedom of being single while keeping all the security of being with me. Now the security was gone. And for the first time in months, maybe years, reality was going to start charging him full price. Things escalated fast after that. And not in the chaotic way I had imagined back when I still thought heartbreak was mostly tears and ugly conversations. What actually happened was quieter at first, more unsettling. Simon didn't crash through the breakup like a guilty man caught. He moved like someone furious that his support system had vanished before he was ready to replace it. The first sign came Sunday night. Wyatt's apartment complex had security cameras covering the parking lot and entrances, which I had barely thought about until that evening around 11 when his phone buzzed with a motion alert. We checked the live feed, and there was Simon's car pulling into the lot, headlights sweeping across parked vehicles, as if he expected me to be standing there waiting to be found. He parked crooked, killed the engine, and just sat inside for almost 20 minutes. I watched him from Wyatt's window with a numb kind of disbelief. 6 years with someone, and suddenly you are looking at them through glass like they are a stranger outside your life instead of inside it. Eventually, he got out and started walking around the building, phone in hand, calling me over and over while glancing at each unit number. He knew I had friends. He knew enough about Wyatt to guess where I might go. What struck me was not that he came. It was how sure he still was that access to me could be forced if he just kept trying. That was always his real habit, I think. Not romance, entitlement. He paced the lot, left a note under Wyatt's windshield wiper, circled the building once more, then finally got back in his car and drove off. The note was short. "Teresa, please call me. We need to talk. This is all a huge misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. That phrase sat in my chest like acid, as if a year of careful deception, a second relationship, family lies, money manipulation, and dating profiles built from our memories could all be smoothed into one harmless confusion if he found the right tone. Monday morning, I went to my supervisor before my shift and explained as much as I needed to. Personal situation, recent breakup, possible unwanted contact. I asked that the team stay alert in case Simon showed up at the office complex where I worked nights. My supervisor didn't push for details. She just nodded, made a note, and said they would keep an eye out. Good thing she did. Tuesday night, around 2 in the morning, Simon drove into the office garage. I was halfway through my rounds when the alert came through. Someone had entered the lower level. When I checked the feed, there he was, walking toward the glass entrance with that tense, determined posture I knew too well from every argument he had ever tried to win by refusing to let it end. He went right up to the doors and started banging on the glass, looking around until his eyes landed on the camera overhead, as if he thought maybe I was hiding just out of sight and might still come down if he made enough noise. I didn't go near the entrance. I watched from the monitor room, pulse low and cold, while he kept trying for several minutes before finally giving up and returning to his car. Then he just sat there, engine running, hands on the wheel, waiting, for over an hour. That was the moment something in me turned fully from hurt to distance, because standing there watching him on a black and white screen, I saw how calculated it was. He knew my work schedule. He knew I worked nights when the building was mostly empty. He knew I couldn't just abandon my post and leave. He had chosen the one place where I would be cornered by obligation if I chose to respond. It was not romantic desperation. It was pressure. A forced confrontation, staged where I had the least freedom to escape it. The footage was reviewed the next morning, and building security documented everything. Seeing him like that on camera, all insistence and restless anger under the fluorescent light, made me feel something I had not expected. Relief. Relief that I had gotten out before he had the chance to talk me into minimizing this. Relief that I was watching him from behind a locked system instead of across our kitchen, while he explained away reality with that wounded, persuasive voice of his. By Wednesday, the campaign had widened. Nolan texted me first. "Simon showed up at my place, asking if I knew where you were. He said you abandoned him, took everything, and left him with bills he can't pay. Is that true?" I called him immediately and told him everything. The Instagram photo, Delia, the lies about our breakup, the dating apps, the false story fed to his family, the money, the note, the work incident. I expected awkwardness, maybe skepticism. What I got instead was stunned silence followed by one long, exhausted exhale. "Teresa," Nolan said. I had no idea. The way he told it, I thought you two had ended things a while ago, and it was messy but mutual. He never said you were still paying for everything. Of course he didn't. What did he tell you when he came by? That you vanished, took all the furniture, left him trapped with bills, and he had nowhere to go. I looked around Wyatt's kitchen as he said it and almost laughed. Furniture, the nerve of that. The things he was calling ours were almost all mine. The things keeping him comfortable had always belonged to the person he was trying to erase. "And what did you tell him?" I asked. I told him no, I'm not getting involved, especially not after this. He wasn't the only one, Simon tried. Over the next few days, several mutual friends reached out with versions of the same story. I had supposedly stormed out, stripped the apartment, left Simon in financial ruin, and refused to let him explain. In every version, he was the one abandoned, the one blindsided, the one hurt by my cruelty. He had crafted the narrative fast. I'll give him that. Fast and familiar. But this time, something had changed. This time, people checked with me. And every single person who asked got the truth. Not melodramatic speeches, not character assassination, just facts, screenshots of the dating profiles, photos of Simon with Delia, a calm explanation of the lease, the utilities, the money, and the lies. It turned out truth is extremely efficient when you stop cushioning it for someone else's image. One by one, the responses came back almost identical. Shock, disgust, distance. Nobody wanted to be used as his rescue team once they saw what he had actually done. Thursday morning, Elena called again, and the exhaustion in her voice told me before she even spoke that things had gotten worse. "Simon stayed with me last night," she said. "I need to tell you something." I sat down on the edge of my new mattress in the studio, Bruno curled at my feet, sunlight barely reaching through the blinds. "What happened?" He was on the phone with Delia while he thought I was asleep. I only heard part of it, but Teresa, he was angry. Not heartbroken. Angry. He said this whole thing wasn't supposed to happen yet. A strange stillness came over me. What do you mean? He said he had been trying to manage a transition, that he needed things stable with you while he figured out what he actually wanted. He said you were never supposed to disappear this completely because you're too responsible and too kind to blow things up. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not confusion. Not a mid-relationship crisis. Not some blurred emotional mess. A strategy. He planned this, I said. That's what it sounded like. And Delia, Elena hesitated. From what I heard, she's pulling away. He said she doesn't want to move in with him now because she doesn't want drama with an ex situation that looks this bad. He sounded furious that his plan was collapsing. I stared at the wall in front of me and felt the last soft piece of the grief harden into something permanent. He had not been drifting away. He had been planning an exit with padding, keeping me close enough to pay for the life he wanted to leave, while he built chemistry and possibility with someone new. He assumed I would keep being stable, keep being generous, keep being the woman who handled everything quietly while he searched for better scenery. He never expected me to vanish from the role he had assigned me. Elena exhaled shakily. Mom and I are done helping him financially, by the way. After hearing what you told me, and after what I heard last night, we're not sending him another dime. He's 26. He can figure out how to support himself. That should not have felt as validating as it did, but it did. Not because I needed revenge. Because I needed confirmation that I wasn't insane for seeing this clearly, that someone else had finally looked at the structure of what he built and called it what it was. Later that same day, I updated my insurance emergency contacts and mentioned to the boutique manager where Simon worked that we were no longer together. She blinked, then gave me a look I still think about. That explains a lot, she said. I asked what she meant. She told me Simon had been distracted for months, calling in sick more often, spending entire shifts on his phone, getting complaints from customers because he was inattentive and rude. When I asked how long, she said, since around February, I think. Around the time he started talking about some new woman he was seeing. Even at work, his focus had not been on our life. It had been on the one he was trying to reach next. By then, I was fully moved into my studio. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, affordable, and mine in a way the old apartment never had been. Bruno adapted immediately, as if dogs can smell truth faster than people. I slept deeper there than I had in months, maybe years. Simon, meanwhile, was losing his grip on every version of the story at once, the loyal boyfriend version, the struggling victim version, the misunderstood man who just needed time. Every time he tried to force one narrative into place, another lie cracked open underneath it. And the more public those cracks became, the more I understood something that would have saved me years if I had learned it sooner. People like Simon do not panic when they lose love. They panic when they lose access. Once I knew it had been planned, the whole past year rearranged itself in my head with a clarity that almost made me dizzy. Suddenly, every vague answer, every delayed text, every Friday night that turned into a last-minute change of plans, every little sigh when I talked about the future, all of it snapped into place. I had spent months trying to understand Simon's growing distance as stress, restlessness, maybe even depression. What it really was logistics. He was not drifting. He was managing timing. That realization hurt in a different way than the cheating had. Cheating is brutal, but there is still sometimes room to believe the person was impulsive, selfish, reckless, weak. Planning is colder. Planning means they looked at your love and saw utility. They saw a stable floor they could keep standing on while reaching for another door. Elena called me again that weekend. Not because I had asked her to keep reporting on her brother, but because apparently once people finally recognize a lie for what it is, they cannot unknow it. Her voice sounded tired, embarrassed on his behalf, and also angry in the way family members get when they realize someone they love has made them look ridiculous by dragging them into the deception. He's still trying to spin this, she said. Now he's telling people you overreacted because you found one photo and jumped to conclusions. I actually smiled at that, not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetically predictable. Men like Simon always shrink the evidence once they realize the full truth makes them look irredeemable. One photo, one misunderstanding, one emotional overreaction. Never the months of lying, never the financial dependence, never the family manipulation, never the second relationship running parallel to the first, like a secret rail line. What else is he saying? That you weren't really happy either, that you both felt stuck, that things were basically over. There it was again. That need to make betrayal sound mutual, to make deceit sound like an atmosphere instead of a choice. I leaned back against the wall of my new apartment and let her talk. He also keeps saying he just needed space to figure out what he wanted. I looked down at Bruno asleep by the couch and felt something in me go completely still. He had space. What he didn't have was honesty. Elena was quiet for a second. I know. The truth was, by then I had stopped needing anyone to confirm who Simon was. I knew. But every detail still mattered because each one stripped away another layer of the story I had once told myself about our relationship. That we had struggled but loved each other. That he was immature but good-hearted. That whatever felt off lately was temporary. No. The relationship had become one-sided long before I admitted it. I was building. He was extracting. I thought back to all the little things I had brushed aside. The way he never once suggested taking over the electric bill when my hours got cut one semester. The way every conversation about our future quietly centered on what I could provide, a better apartment, a more stable schedule, eventually maybe a house, maybe enough room for him to figure things out. The way he got defensive whenever I casually asked about his plans or who he was out with, not outraged, just annoyed, like accountability itself was an inconvenience. I used to interpret all of that as emotional mismatch. Now I saw it for what it was, entitlement wrapped in charm. A few days later, I got one more piece of confirmation from an unexpected place. The manager at the boutique texted me after I had updated my emergency contact information. She said she hoped I didn't mind her reaching out. But she wanted me to know that Simon had been talking at work like Delia was his real relationship for months. Not openly enough to trigger questions, but enough that people there assumed he was single or recently free. He had apparently mentioned a new beginning more than once, a phrase so polished it made my skin crawl, as if I had simply become the life he needed to step out of gracefully, instead of the woman subsidizing his rehearsal for the next one. That night, sitting alone in the studio with textbooks open in front of me and no concentration at all, I let myself say the ugliest version of the truth out loud. He kept me because I was useful. No tears came with it, just quiet, a devastating kind, but honest. And once that honesty settled in, the idea of him eventually trying to come back no longer felt impossible. It felt inevitable, because Simon was not the kind of man who mourned people. He mourned comfort. He mourned access. He mourned the systems he had counted on to keep his life smooth while he sorted out his desires. If Delia had started backing away, if his family had stopped sending money, if mutual friends were refusing to play rescue team, then eventually he would come looking for the one thing he trusted most. Me. Not because he suddenly understood my value, but because he had always assumed it would remain available. I was right. He found my new address about a week later. I still do not know how. I had given it only to work, my landlord, and the school office. But one Thursday evening, just after 7, as I pulled into the lot after class, I saw him standing beside my car. For 1 second, everything in my body reacted before my mind did. Pulse up, breath caught, that old intimate recognition of his posture, the way he leaned slightly on one leg when he was preparing to ask for something. Then the feeling passed. What replaced it was not fear, not anger, emptiness, clear and complete. "Teresa," he said as I got out, "please, we need to talk." I locked the car slowly. "No, you need to talk. I'm done listening." He looked thinner, more worn down. That might have moved me once. Not anymore. You can't throw away 6 years without hearing me out. The sentence hung there between us, and I almost admired how instinctively he still tried to make me the destroyer of something he had been hollowing out for a year. "I'm not throwing away 6 years," I said. "I'm walking away from someone who left the relationship long before I knew it." His face tightened. It wasn't like that. I met his eyes. "Then tell me what it was like." He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I still cared about you. I just needed time. I could have laughed. Instead, I took one step closer so he could hear every word clearly. "You were confused while making dating profiles with our photos. You were confused while telling your family I controlled you. You were confused while taking money from your mother for rent I was already paying. You were confused while publicly dating Delia and privately sleeping beside me. That is a very efficient kind of confusion, Simon." His face went pale. He had not expected me to know all of it. That much was obvious. "Who told you that?" Does it matter?" He looked away for a second, then back at me with the first real flicker of panic I had seen on him. Not guilt, exposure. That was when I knew the confrontation I had spent days imagining in grief was no longer mine to survive. It was his. He stared at me like he was still trying to calculate which version of himself might work best. The wounded one. The misunderstood one. The remorseful one. For 6 years, I had watched Simon move through the world with that exact instinct, adjusting tone before truth, searching for the angle that would buy him the most comfort. It used to read as charm to me. Standing there in the parking lot outside my new apartment, with Bruno waiting inside and my keys still in my hand, it finally read the way it should have from the beginning. Manipulation dressed up as vulnerability. "Teresa," he said again, softer now, "I know how this looks." I almost smiled. "That's the problem, Simon. It only matters to you how it looks." His jaw tightened. "You think this is easy for me." "No," I said. "I think easy is exactly what you were trying to create. Easy for you. Keep me paying rent. Keep your family sending money. Keep Delia interested. Keep everyone believing whatever version made your life least uncomfortable. You weren't choosing between two women because you were torn. You were arranging your options." He flinched at that, and for the first time since he showed up, I saw something close to the truth pass across his face. Not remorse, recognition, because he knew I had named it correctly. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he said. That sentence landed harder than any apology could have, because it confirmed what I already knew. His real regret was not the betrayal. It was the collapse of the plan. I let the silence sit there a second before answering. "I know. I was supposed to stay calm. Keep paying, keep trusting you, maybe cry a little when you eventually left, but still help make the transition clean. That was the plan, right?" "That's not fair." I laughed once. Short, sharp. "No. Fair would have been you ending the relationship before you started another one. Fair would have been paying your own bills while you figured out your life out. Fair would have been telling your family the truth instead of calling me controlling so they'd fund your lies." His face changed at that. Something in him had still been counting on the possibility that if he looked devastated enough, if he used the right words, I might slide back into the old role and help him feel less monstrous. But the mention of his family, of the money, of the lies that went far beyond cheating, stripped away the last illusion that this was just a relationship problem. "I loved you," he said, and there it was, the final card. I looked at him for a long moment. 6 years. So many dinners, so many routines, so many small domestic acts I had once mistaken for devotion because I wanted to believe consistency meant sincerity, and maybe in his own shallow, self-serving way, he had loved what I gave him. Stability, admiration, order, rescue. But love that depends on deception is not love. It is dependency with better marketing. "You loved what I did for you," I said quietly. "You loved how easy I made your life. You loved that I was too loyal to imagine you were building your next relationship while lying in my bed." His eyes went glossy then, but I had learned enough by that point not to confuse tears with depth. People cry when they lose leverage, too. "We can fix this," he said. "I'll end things with Delia. I already told her I need space. I'll be honest. I'll get another job. I'll do whatever you need." The sheer arrogance of that almost took my breath away, as if this were still a negotiation, as if trust were some appliance he had broken and could replace if I gave him a week and a shopping list. "It's too late," I said. "Even if every word you're saying right now were true, and I don't believe that it is, I would still never be able to look at you without wondering what else is happening just outside my line of sight. That is not a relationship. That is surveillance." He stepped closer and lowered his voice, trying for intimacy. 6 years has to mean something." "It would," I said, "if those 6 years had been honest." That was the moment he ran out of script. He looked at me, then at the building behind me, then back at me again, as if he still could not understand why access had not been restored the second he showed up looking wrecked. "So that's it," he said. "You're just going to erase me." And there it was again, that familiar reversal, the attempt to make abandonment mine. I felt almost detached saying the next part because by then it was not pain talking, it was clarity. "No," I said. "You erased me months ago. Publicly, socially, financially, you just expected me to keep paying the bills while you did it." He did not answer, because there wasn't an answer to that, not one that didn't expose everything. The conversation ended the only way it could, with him asking for one more chance, one more conversation, one more opening, and me saying no in every language that mattered. No to coffee, no to closure, no to at least being friends, no to any arrangement where I had to keep holding the emotional weight of what he destroyed. When I walked past him toward the building entrance, he didn't stop me. I don't know whether that was shame or simply the dawning realization that nothing in me was reachable anymore. Maybe both. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and did not look back. That was the last time I saw Simon. Over the weekend, Nolan told me what happened with Delia. Apparently, once she learned the full truth, not the curated version Simon had been feeding her, but the part where he had still been living with me, taking my financial support and lying to everyone about our status, she ended it. Publicly, too, from what I heard. She told people she thought he was actually single and that if she had known he was maintaining a secret live-in relationship while shopping for his next option, she never would have touched him. I don't blame her for that. She had her own version of a lie to untangle. A day later, Elena texted me the final piece I needed to close the door for good. Simon had moved back in with his parents. He was apparently telling some people that I had trapped him financially, taken their furniture, and left him without warning. But this time, the story didn't stick. His mother shut it down immediately. Elena said their mom told him, very calmly, that if he was grown enough to cheat, lie, and stage multiple versions of his life at once, then he was grown enough to deal with the consequences without pretending to be the victim. That was the moment I felt something in me finally unclench. Not because his life had fallen apart. I wasn't celebrating that, truly. What I felt was relief that the people who mattered, the ones close enough to see the shape of what happened, were no longer feeding his delusions. He had run out of places to hide the story. Looking back now, I can see red flags everywhere. The way he never offered to take over a bill unless I was already drowning. The way every future plan somehow depended on what I could provide. The way he always framed commitment in terms of what made him feel secure, not what made us stronger. I used to think I had missed the signs because I was naive. The truth is uglier and simpler. I was loyal. I believed partnership meant showing up steadily, even when things felt uneven. I kept assuming effort would eventually be met with effort. But some people do not see loyalty as something to return. They see it as something to use. The hardest part of all this was not losing Simon. It was realizing how little I had been asking for, how thoroughly I had trained myself to feel proud of being useful while ignoring whether I was actually being loved. I'm 28. I have a stable job. I'm finishing my degree. I have my own place now, my dog asleep on my couch, friends who told me the truth instead of protecting a liar, and a future that finally feels like mine instead of a system designed to keep someone else comfortable. For the first time in a long time, I'm not managing anyone's chaos. I'm building a life I can actually trust. And that, more than anything Simon ever said at the end, is how I knew walking away was right. The right person will not treat you like a transition plan. They will not crop you out of memories while still cashing in on your loyalty. They will not call your devotion control, your stability convenience, and your silence proof that they got away with it. The right person will know your value before losing access to it. Simon wanted me to be the safe place he returned to after testing every other door. What he never understood is that once you learn someone only loved your usefulness, the grief changes shape. It stops begging. It stops bargaining. It becomes a boundary. And boundaries, once built correctly, do not reopen just because the person who broke them finally realizes what they cost.